Okay, hi. Today I'm doing a tutorial of some sort. I'm just gonna play around with a couple of palettes and see what I come up with. I'm filming this in a new way, so if you feel like I'm not looking at the camera and I'm looking at my computer screen, it's because I am. But yeah, I'm just gonna kind of get used to this new filming setup because I'm doing it connected to my computer, so we'll see how it goes. So I have nothing on my skin right now. I cleaned my skin with my Avene cleanser that I use all the time. So I'm going to do some skin prep. And my skin's been feeling really dry recently, so I'm going to use my Nouveau Lashes Rejuvenating Eye Cream and Mask. Look at that focus. Wow. iPhone cameras are really good. So it's just going to be kind of chit-chatty. Because I'm still not 100% well, I'm still quite shaky, my voice is shaky, I'm stuttery, just a lot of things to adjust to at the moment. I'm just putting this eye cream on underneath my eye. It's quite a rich eye cream, this is, so we really have to let that sink in before putting concealer on, because I have found in the past it kind of slides around or goes into like all the lines and stuff. So I'm just putting a nice generous amount of this around my eye. Sorry if you can hear banging and stuff, by the way, my mum is baking downstairs, so she's obviously getting air bubbles out of cakes. Then I'm going to put on my SPF. I use the Body Shop Skin Defense SPF. This is 50, factor 50, because I burn easily. I'm not sure if I'll be going out today, but maybe I'll walk later. But always put SPF on anyway, because you can still be affected by UV rays through your windows and stuff like that. Obviously, I have my blinds up today, just because it keeps the lighting nice and even for these videos. So just working in my SPF. And this is really nice as well. I'm not sure how it works on deeper skin tones. I've never noticed any flashback with it, which is good. It is a lot better than just using like a normal SPF on your skin, because it doesn't leave that like greasy feeling either. I've been using this for a while. I started using it while I was in hospital, and in the last like 2 weeks of my stay in hospital, I started getting a bit more serious about my skincare, and I always had to try and find the right time to go into the shower room and like do my skincare and stuff like that, because I felt like I was taking the mick a bit sometimes, like, oh, I'm using up precious time when other patients could be having a shower and stuff like that. So I'd always try to be as quick as I could, but when you're on a neurology ward, everything gets very confusing, and we all get confused by each other. I'd usually let this sink in a little bit more, but for now I think I'm going to go in with my moisturiser. So moisturiser today, because I've been feeling so dry, I think I'm going to use my Charlotte Tilbury. So Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream. I still love this cream, and it's very well loved, but I have to be careful how much I use because it's very expensive and I don't have the money to burn right now. But usually I would let my SPF sink in for a little bit longer before putting on my moisturiser. I'd usually have other things to do, but since I'm filming, I thought I may as well put it straight on. So this could affect the application. So if you're sat at home doing your own makeup and say you're following along with this video, for example, I would say wait a good 5 minutes to let your SPF sink in before you put on your moisturiser, because you might find it to be too greasy. And sorry if you hear ambulances as well. There's lots of ambulances that go past near where I live. I always try to say little prayers for people who are in ambulances and stuff like that, because I don't remember any of my experience in an ambulance, but my parents do, and it was very scary. While I wait for that to sink in, I'm going to put on a bit of hand cream, because you should always put hand cream on. Always moisturise your hands and feet. That's something I learned in hospital from lots of different carers, and they always swear by moisturising your hands and your feet. I'm not going to moisturise my feet right now though. This is the Baylis and Harding Sweet Mandarin and Grapefruit. Really nice hand cream. I can just feel when they start to go dry because I use a lot of hand sanitizer and I wash my hands loads. I'm going to start with my eyebrows, so I use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Freeze. I swear by this. And I use a little mascara wand. You might find, if you don't have like a pack of all of these mascara wands, which you can get on like Amazon and stuff, you can use one on like an eyebrow pencil. I get a blob of this, put it on the back of my hand. You can use the actual tub as a palette as well if you want to, but I use my hand. And I just brush it quite firmly through my brow. I'm just going to twizzle so you can see a bit better. I don't know how much I'm covering what I'm doing with my hand. There we go. So I like to have them fluffed up a little bit. Just drag the product through all the brow hairs first, and then you can start to kind of reshape them. There we go. So I'm going to prime my eyelid using the Urban Decay Primer Potion Classic. And I'm going to take a bit on the back of my hand still because this is one that I use on clients. Not that I have much clients to be worrying about at the moment because I'm still not 100%. So I'm just applying that over my lid, just a thin amount. But I'm only kind of focusing it on my actual eyelid. I'm not bringing it up to the brow very much because we're going to use a different base for that area. So I'm going to use my P. Louise eye base in the shade number 2. This is the original shade that P. Louise released. And I'm going to, ooh, got a little bit more there than I thought. So a little bit of that on a flat brush, and this is a P. Louise brush as well. Might have to do that. So it does look like it's dirty. It's not dirt, it's just rust. It's just started to like chip away, and you can see it's a well-loved brush, but we all have our well-loved brushes. This is the 7202. Will it focus? The 7022. 7072. And I'm coating both sides of the brush to get it nice and flat, and then I'm just sculpting underneath the brow. And I'm just going to tap the base in. That's what P. Louise always says. Make sure you tap the base in, or pat it. One or the other, I don't know. I can't remember. So I'm just bringing that down, kind of into the crease slightly, and then just using my finger to blend the last of it into my lid. Because it doesn't matter too much about the lid because we're going to have colours on there anyway. And then just do the same on the other side. So for my brows today, I'm going to use my favourite brow pencil. It's the NYX Micro Brow Pencil in the shade Espresso. I'm just going to neaten up the brow and just follow that line we made. Some of my brow hairs do kind of go in their own direction now. They've been through a lot. When I was in hospital, I plucked them out, so I had like a huge patch. There we go, and then the same on the other side. So with the concealer brush that I used, you can get like a really nice sharp line, so you can kind of follow that line. You can kind of see where it sits here, where you can just get that nice base line in. and then you kind of flick up from that baseline. So follow it and then up into the brows, just to fill in the little gaps. And remember, brows are sisters, not twins. Some people are lucky and get really good symmetrical brows, but nobody's face is like perfectly symmetrical. Or maybe that's untrue, I'm not sure. There might be some people who have perfectly symmetrical faces. I'm just trying to get these as symmetrical as I can. Have a little bit more of a sharp arch on the right hand side. So it's just a lot of stopping and starting until you find what you're happy with. I think that looks pretty similar. It'll do anyway. I'm still relearning a lot of makeup stuff at the moment. So I think I'm going to do just kind of natural neutral colours, like pinky sort of red colours, stuff like that. So I'm using the P. Louise Love Tapes palettes. So this one is Wedding Wish on there. And then this one is Date Night. So I'm going to use a mixture of colours and see what I come up with, really. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my left eye off camera, just so I know what I want to do, and then I'll come back and show you what I did on this eye. Okay, I went off camera and I did one eye. So I'm going to try and do the same on the other side now. So my eye is primed, I'm ready to go. So I'm starting with the Date Night palette and I'm using the shade Treat Me, this dark brown here. And I'm using my Morphe M562 brush, which is this one here. And I'm packing that on the brush, tapping off a bit of the excess, and then just pressing that into the outer corner of my eyelid, just here. Apologies about heavy breathing, by the way, that's also part of my symptoms at the moment. Just getting out of breath quite a lot. I know it can be quite annoying, so I'm sorry. So I'm just patting that into the outer corner like that, getting lots of pigmentation from it. And I did like a sort of halo eye, so that's where you leave the centre of the lid and you put your shimmery colour on the centre and you keep it dark on both sides. So I'm bringing it into the crease, just getting extra product when I need it, like that. And then on the inner portion of the lid. Not too far into the inner corner because you can see I've got like a shimmer on the inner corner here. So that's kind of how it should look. So it looks quite messy at the start. And then I just start to swirl the brush along the edge, just really light pressure. If you find that you're putting too much pressure on, what you can do is hold your brush a little bit further to the end and you'll naturally use a lot less pressure. So just do like really little swirling motions along the edge where it looks harsh. Like that. Then I'm going in with the shade Reservations from the same palette, and the brush I'm using is the Morphe M506, so it's a little bit bigger. So you're always kind of working up in stages, so you use the smaller brush for the detail work and then you get a little bit bigger and then you get a little bit bigger again. And I'm just applying that along the edge of the previous shade, so kind of 50% over the previous shade and 50% off into like the surrounding skin, if that makes sense. I'm probably rubbish at describing things at the moment because I haven't done a video in a long time. So just little swirling motions. Again, getting a nice bit of pigmentation, getting it nice and rounded. And using what's left on the brush again to just fluff those edges. So again, holding the brush a little bit further back so that you use lighter pressure, like that. And then another bigger brush. This one is the Zoeva 231 Luxe Petite Crease brush. And I'm using the other palette. This one is the Wedding Wish palette. and I'm using the shade Forever Yours, this one here. Tap off the excess, and I'm just working that along the edge of the previous shade. And you might find you need to go back into the other eye as well and kind of add some more colour to it and build it up a little bit more. Some people find it easier to do like one stage on one eye and then the same stage on the other eye and then gradually do each side. It's only for the sake of the tutorial that I've done it a little bit different. So I'm going to reapply a little bit of that same shade on this side as well, just where I can see it's kind of blended out a little bit more. Okay, then I'm using a bigger brush again. This is the Zoeva, I can't find a number on this one, but it's a kind of large fluffy brush, and I'm using the shade Hitched, this one here. Again, a little bit of product and just fluffing that along the edge again. And alternating brushes where you see that there's like little bits that haven't quite blended, you can go back in with the previous shade again to build it up. Now I'm using a little bit of the P. Louise base again, just a tiny dot of it really, literally the tiniest bit, and I'm just pressing that on the centre of the lid with my finger, just to lighten the centre again. And you can kind of use it to drag the eyeshadow on both sides, just to get it nice and sticky again so that we can put our shimmer on top. So again, from the Date Night palette, I'm using the shade Our Secret, this one here. And I'm using my finger again to apply this, literally just pressing it on the lid. I hope you can see this properly. And I did use a brush as well, just to neaten it up a little bit. So a little bit of product. Again, like that. And then using the darkest colour again, Treat Me, just applying that on the inner corner.
I'm not sure about that.
Sorry, Alexa must have heard her name somehow. And then I'm using the big fluffy brush again, and I'm using the shade Endless Love, this one here, just on my brow bone. Just to make sure that we've got a nice seamless blend. So I used my Made by Mitchell eyeliner called Tiger's Eye. This is a really deep brown sort of colour. And I'm just using a little paintbrush here just to get some of that product on the brush. I find it quite easy with a brush compared to the pencil. Like the pencil is quite small now and it's not sharpening very well. So I'm just going to use a brush. In fact, I'm going to go get some product on the lid first, just right into the lashes, and then using the brush to blend it. And I did do a little bit of a wing as well, so I'm just using what's left on the brush to drag that out. It's not perfect, but it will do, and I can always clean it up a little bit after. Okay, so skin. I've been struggling quite a lot with skin recently, trying to get like the match correct. I have got a little bit of fake tan on, so I'm gonna have to work out what shade I am. That's something that I think I'm really relearning is colour theory. When I was in hospital, I actually had a moment where I was kind of struggling with differentiating between like greens and blues. When I was doing colouring and stuff, I couldn't quite see the colours, and I'd get really frustrated that I couldn't see the colours and I couldn't work them out, and I thought I was going colourblind, and I was getting into a right panic about it, thinking, oh my god, that's another thing to add to the list, I'm going to be colourblind now. All sorts of crazy stuff happened in hospital, but that was a difficult one for me because I was like, I can't do my job without colour theory, that's really important. So I might even go as far as using a colour wheel today, just to kind of see my undertone, because it's looking I used to say pink, but I think that's a little bit too pink for me. I was looking at the blues then, like this sort of shade here, kind of a bluish shade, which is interesting because I don't know if I have a blue that I can use. So I just remembered that I didn't put my highlight on the inner corner of my eye. So I'm using the Jacqueline The Flash palette, this one here, and I'm using the shade Iced on a little pencil brush. This is a really old brush, this is a Sigma brush. I think it's an E30 or an E80, but it's just a classic pencil brush to pop a highlight on the inner corner. So now, moving on to skin, I've just got myself a little bit confused with skin matching. I could be off here. I'm not sure if this is the right shade for me. It looks kind of good when I rub it in. In fact, that actually looks like a really good match, so I think we'll be okay. I'm gonna use it lightly though. I'm not using much coverage. I'm going to spritz my face first with my Morphe Luminous setting spray, just to dampen my face a little bit and to set the eyes in place. And I'm going to use it on my sponge as well. Try not to get it on all of my technology. Don't want it all over my phone and my laptop. And I'm going to use my finger to just dot this foundation. And this is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless foundation, by the way. This is in the shade 3 Warm. But I keep all of my Charlotte Tilbury foundations in little tubes like this, and I label them just to keep them nice and organised. Nothing worse than having to carry your glass bottles everywhere, because if you drop one, that's it, game over. You've got foundation all over a venue or somebody's house, God forbid. And it's really heavy as well. And my kit bag is heavy enough. So I'm just going to gradually blend this in. Trying to work quick with it as well, because this does go down to a little bit of a matte sort of finish. It's going to be really uneven at this point. But the skin match is pretty good. Quite happy with that. I haven't used any primer again. I've just forgotten. I was going to use my Fenty Soft Matte Primer, but I've forgotten. So that's silly me. But hopefully the setting spray will work as a bit of a primer. So we'll survive. And I did good skin prep as well. So when in doubt, as long as you've done good skin prep, your foundation's probably going to do a little bit better, but even better if you put a primer on as well. So I usually use my Skin Fetish concealer from Pat McGrath. This is in the shade L2. Doesn't say if it's warm or cool. It looks a little bit on the neutral cool side. It is quite pink actually, but that's not too bad. Using peachy tones helps with dark circles. And that's kind of how I apply it. I do a little bit on the inner corner and a little bit just swiped out there. So that's just brightened up my under eye. You can see the difference in different lighting. Just making sure it blends into the brow bone as well. And then a little bit on the high points of my face. There we go. And now for contour, I use my Fenty Beauty Match Stick in the shade Mocha. So it's this colour. Is it going to focus? Not focus. It's trying to focus. But yeah, I use my Zoeva 122 Petite Stippling brush. And I just get the product on the brush. And starting from this point of my ear here and aiming for kind of the corner of my lip. But I do tend to kind of sweep it up a little bit more and try not to bring it further than the outer corner of your eye. So you want to kind of keep it in these parameters here. You don't want to bring it too far down here. That's going to give a really gaunt look, unless you were going for that sort of look, that's fine. But I just like to swirl it around. And this is applying quite nice actually. My skin's looking a little bit more hydrated today. And then temples of the head, bring that into the eyeshadow a little bit as well. Just kind of use what's left on the brush. And then into the hairline as well. And then the same on the other side. And then a little bit under the tip of my nose. And I'll use a little brush to do a little bit of contour down my nose as well. This is just from one of my old Urban Decay palettes. I think it was Vice palette. It was a Spectrum palette or something like that, but I don't have it anymore. And I just bring it down this part of my nose, just the bridge of the nose. And blend that with my finger. You can see how that's just like brought this kind of bit of wideness. It's just brought it in a little bit. But everybody contours their nose differently. It just depends on what effect you want really. And then I just do a little bit just along the tip, just to bring this in a little bit, to make it a little bit more pointed rather than rounded. But obviously you have to be realistic, because from different angles it's still going to look like your nose. I know people and noses, I learned a lot about noses while I was in hospital. A lot of people don't like their nose. And I think that's quite sad, because as long as you can smell and you can breathe, that's what's important. So for my powder, I'm using the Laura Mercier powders. I've got the translucent loose powder, and I have the translucent honey powder. So these are both different colours. This is a little bit darker, this is a little bit lighter. I'm going to use a mixture of the two, just so it's not too light or too dark on my skin. And I'm using this Real Techniques brush. I can't remember what this brush is called, but it's a really good one, and you can notice it when you see it if it's in store. It's a really good one. So pack in that brush with the powder, tapping off the excess, and I'm going to just make sure it's all blended under my eyes first. Make sure it's in all of the creases and whatnot, and just press it. You can do like a press and a roll. Again, a little bit more powder, and just pressing it in. Now it is making my skin look a little bit more textured, but that could just be because it's quite dry at the moment, and I'm still adjusting to my medications and stuff like that, so sometimes we have to just accept that our skin isn't going to look totally flawless all the time. And I will put some pictures on Instagram and at the end of this video so you can see the reality. My skin isn't perfect. It might look good on camera, but it's not necessarily perfect. I don't know if you can see. You can kind of see how it's settling into lines like this one here. This is one that's new. But this camera is pretty good at showing all of the detail. Now I'm going to just go over my contour using my Juvia's Place, the bronzed palette. So this is medium. And I'm going to use a mixture of the two shades. And just reapply that. Just so you've got a bit of a powder to set the cream sort of products. Make sure it's really in the hairline as well, because obviously I have quite a big forehead and I do like to have like my little baby hairs organised at the moment because it's still growing back at the moment. This front bit here is where I ripped my hair out, so trying to take care of that and make sure it grows back a little bit more. Moving on to blush, I'm going to use my Milani Luminoso powder. This is Baked Powder Blush in the shade 5. Same brush again. And just applying that kind of to the top of the cheekbone almost. And then just dragging it down. But I'm always doing like this kind of sweeping up motion. So I'm doing like circular motions, but I'm sweeping it up. I always like to have a little bit of pink in my cheeks. And again, tip of the nose. A little bit over the top of my nose, a little bit of like the sunburnt sort of look. Now for highlighter, I'm using my Jacqueline the Flash palette again, using the shade Iced. It's my favourite shade. I'm just popping that on the tops of my cheekbones. Cupid's bow, chin, down the centre of the nose, and then a little bit just on the tip of the nose, and then a little bit just above each brow. Now for my lower lash line, I'm using the shade Treat Me again, the darkest colour, and just pressing that on the outer sort of half of the lid, kind of. I'll do the same on the other side. Then I'm going to use the shade Reservations again, the bright red, and this Peaches and Cream PC47 brush. It's a nice little brush here. But I'm just using a tiny bit of this. I swiped off a little bit of the excess product. I'm a little bit wobbly still. There we go. Using the shade Forever Yours again, this light pink, and this is the same Zoeva brush that I used on the top of my lid. I'm just going to use that to blend out the excess. And then the biggest brush again with, I'll do a mixture of Hitched and Endless Love. A mixture of these two shades here. Bit of that, bit of that. Just to blend it into my skin. And then my flat brush again that I used for the shimmer shade. I'm going to apply the same shade just here. Now, mascara and lashes. The mascara I'm using at the moment is the Kiko Milano Unforgettable Mascara. This is a really good waterproof one. There's not much left in it. It is a little bit dry, but it does the job. Just being really careful not to get it all over my eyeshadow. I think I'll just do a corner lash today. So these are the, sorry, wobbly. These are the Prima lashes in number 37. I'll show you what they look like. So they're just like this. Just gonna make sure there's no glue left on them from last time. And the glue that I use at the moment is by Lash Couture. It's just a black. I think this is latex free. Yeah, this is a latex free glue. Okay, and see if I can get this in the right place straight away. And using my Morphe tweezers to just pinch this together. And I have got a little bit of mascara on my lower lash line, so I'm just going to use a clean mascara one to just flick that off. I definitely need to get some more lash glue, that's for sure. I normally use Duo lash glue, that's my favourite, so I need to look out for that in the in Superdrug. There we go. I think I'm going to leave my waterline because it's quite light today, so it looks quite nice like that. I think I want to do something quite natural on my lips. I think I'm going to use this one. This is by number 17. I think it's just called 17, and I don't think this has a name. I can't find a name of the colour, but it's a really nice neutral pink shade. So I always line around my lips first, and then I bring a little bit of the colour just slightly into the centre. Just from that outer corner in. This is one of my favourites at the moment. This is from Kiko, and it's called A Holiday Fable. It's the Creamy Magic Stylo. So it's a really thin one like this. Let me see if we can see it. So this one here. And I'm just using a little brush. This is actually, I think, a nail brush or a lip brush. I can't remember if it was specifically for one or the other, but it's a really nice flat brush for lip. I think that's pretty much the perfect colour. Just a little bit lighter, a little bit more beige. But what I do is I use the brush to make the line of the lip line a little bit smoother. Now this is actually my lipstick. I don't use this one on clients, so I'm going to add a little bit more from the actual tube. And I think I'm going to leave that as it is. I'm not going to put a gloss on today. Not feeling a gloss with this one. But yeah, that's the finished look. Let me get some close-up views of it. So you can see it a little bit better. I've got to keep it this way.